Now, the humble granny flat is fast becoming a major cash cow for Australian families. And with a guaranteed second income, homeowners are also prepared to sink a bit more money into making the backyard digs quite luxurious. Joining us is Bryce Holdaway from Location Australia. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I do love saying that. The granny flats, they've always been a big part of the Australian backyard to some degree or another. Why has it sort of changed quite recently?
Look, I think there's a few purposes, but the main one is affordability. I mean, particularly in the bigger cities, it's really expensive to buy. So keeping the family close is an option if you've got grown-up kids, or I'm a Perth boy who lives in Melbourne, so you've always got the relatives coming to stay. So it's always good to have somewhere they can have some privacy, as well as put them up.
You can have them close, but not too close.
Exactly.
In the backyard itself. Now, a decade ago, though, the granny flat was quite a humble thing. It was basically just a small room, maybe a kitchenette, and it wasn't too over the top in terms of luxury. What are some of the additions that people are making to really make these granny flats special?
Yeah, look, built-in robes, al fresco dining, spas, and probably after... Spas, hot tubs. And after the reveal on the block last week, maybe some butler's pantries.
Yeah, exactly. But how much would people be spending on that sort of upgrade?
Oh, look, budget, they could probably get away with it for $50,000, but I think you'd probably want to factor in $100,000 to make it an effective return on your investment.
Because that's the issue, isn't it? You don't want to over-capitalise on any element of your home, and particularly on a granny flat, you could very much do that if you're doing things like adding hot tubs. Yeah,
absolutely, you could. But some people are actually spending up to $300,000 on these granny flats, so they're making them quite opulent. So, but I would suggest if it's purely for investment, that you'd probably stick around that sort of 100,000 mark.
And what about other options too? Because I know that flat pack housing is being looked at, not just for granny flats, but for the larger home too. And also shipping containers, how are they being used?
Yeah, well, for ease and affordability, because you can get them up very, very quickly, and of course they help with the budget, but it's amazing what you can do with some of those shipping containers.
Because we're seeing some of the pictures of them now, you really wouldn't think that that's what they are made from. They're sort of constructed but then added onto.
Yeah, as soon as you say shipping container, you sort of think,
very industrial,
very low
basic,
budget, but they're doing some really great things with shipping containers.
Wow, fantastic. Now, for couples nearing retirement as well, is a granny flat a good option for people to top up their income stream, potentially?
Look, I think it is, because it means their assets can work harder than they do as they get closer to retirement. So if they can make use of what they've got, get an extra income stream, and of course if their financial planner says it works with the context of everything else that they're doing, I think that's a really, really good option.
And what sort of income can it bring in?
Oh, look, you could get sort of 5-6% just on that little investment that you make just out the back. So it could be significant sort of top up to people's retirement lifestyle.
And in terms of space in your backyard, I know that different councils have different regulations in every centre, so you'd have to check with your local council. But roughly, how much space and how big a yard do you need to consider putting one of these things in?
Look, you need a minimum of 450 square metre block. They can be a maximum of 60 square metres in terms of their internal space. You've got to make sure that the block is just not all about dwellings. So there's got to be a minimum of 25% of the block for landscaping, and a large part of that towards the rear. And of course it needs to have the appropriate zoning, residential zoning, so you couldn't do it if you're in a mixed-use zone with commercial parts to it. And
particularly, I suppose, if you're putting in bathrooms and kitchens, you'd need to definitely get that council, if there's plumbing involved too, that council approval.
Absolutely, and you can't have two separate titles with this, so if you're selling it, they come as a package. So you don't want to get to a stage where you want to sell this property and all of a sudden you haven't got that council approval and realise that you can't sell it. So it just makes sense to get all the box ticked straight away, and then you can sort of take advantage of it.
I love the way families are considering it, where they'll live in it and have the kids in the back when they're young, and then maybe swap when they get older. Put the kids in the main house, and when they retire, go into the granny flat.
Yeah, otherwise kids are just going to have to move further and further out. So, like I said before, it's a great way to keep your family close.
Whatever option works for your family, it's worth considering. Thank you so much for coming in. Really interesting.
Thanks, Deb.
Pete.